The city of Puducherry on the southeast coast of India does not have a vishva history from antiquity. Puducherry has history recorded only after the advent of the colonial powers such as the Dutch, Portuguese, English and the French. Nearby places such as Arikamedu, Ariyankuppam, Kakayanthoppe, Villianur and Bahur, which were annexed by the French East India Company over a period of time and became the Union Territory of Puducherry after independence, have written histories that predate the colonial era. Early period. The Periplus of the Erythraean Sea of the 1st century mentions a marketplace named Puducherry. GWB Huntingford identified this as possibly being Arikamedu, located about 2 miles from the modern city of Puducherry. Puducherry was apparently an important destination for Roman trade with India. Huntingford further notes that Roman pottery was found at Arikamedu in 1937. In addition, archaeological excavations between 1944 and 1949 showed that it was a trading station to which goods of Roman manufacture were imported during the first half of the 1st century AD. At the beginning of the 4th century AD, the Puducherry area was part of the Pallava kingdom of Kanchipuram. During the following centuries, different southern dynasties controlled Puducherry. In the 10th century AD, the Chola of Thanjavur took over, only to be replaced by the Pandya kingdom in the 13th century. After a brief invasion by the Muslim rulers of the north, who established the Sultanate of Madurai, the Vijayanagara Empire took control of almost all the south of India, with the power lasting until 1638, when the Sultan of Bijapur began to rule over Jinji. European period. In 1674 the French East India Company set up a trading centre at Puducherry. This outpost eventually became the chief French settlement in India. Dutch and British trading companies also wanted trade with India. Wars raged among these European countries and spilled over into the Indian subcontinent. The Dutch captured Puducherry in 1693 but returned it to France by the Treaty of Ryswick in 1699. The French acquired Mahe in the 1720s, Janum in 1731, and Karikal in 1738. During Anglo-French wars, Puducherry changed hands frequently. On January 16, 1761, the British captured Puducherry from the French, but the Treaty of Paris at the conclusion of the 7 Years' War returned it. The British took control of the area again in 1793 at the Siege of Puducherry amid the wars of the French Revolution, and returned it to France in 1814. When the British gained control of the whole of India in the late 1850s, they allowed the French to retain the settlements in the country. Puducherry, Mahe, Janam, Karikal and Chandanagar remained a part of French India until 1954. The independence of India in 1947 gave impetus to the union of France's Indian possessions with former British India. An agreement between France and India in 1948 stipulated that the inhabitants of France's Indian possessions would choose the political future. The de jure union of French India with the Indian Union did not take place until 1962. On a de facto basis, the bureaucracy had been united with India's on 1 November 1954. It was organized as a Union Territory in 1963. Puducherry is now a part of India. Separation from France. Cession of Puducherry and Karikal. For the time India gained its independence from British rule in 1947, it raised the issue of the French settlements on the continent with the government of France. It took 7 years for Puducherry to effectively unite with independent India. Political agitation to achieve this goal began earlier. In 1787 and 1791, farmers of Karikal agitated against the heavy land tax imposed by the French. The rebellion of 1857 had an effect in the French settlements, but it did not attract the attention of the rulers, as the incidents were few and considered as local. People employed legal means to fight against the French. In 1873, an advocate, Ponlathambi Pillai, convinced a Paris court of his cause. He won the case, in which he was fined by a French magistrate in Puducherry for walking into the court with footwear. Student protests in 1927 and 1930 expressed a desire for an end of French oversight. Leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Bal Gangadhar Tilak visited Puducherry and its other enclaves and addressed the meetings. In 1934, Swatantram, a monthly, was started by veteran independence activist and trade union leader V. Subbiah for the cause of workers and the country. Police control, which warranted trade union unrest, further increased civilian agitation against the colonial government. In the late 1930s, grassroots organizations known as Mahajana Sabhas were started in Puducherry and Karikal. These groups, along with trade unions, organized the non-cooperation movement. During the Second World War, Puducherry supported France with men and materiel. Deaths among French Indian soldiers caused unrest in the enclaves. In 1946, the French India Congress was formed with the objective of integrating the French possessions with India. Later the following year, the French India Students' Congress adopted a resolution on merger. In January 1948, the French People's Convention passed a resolution expressing its determination to merge the French possessions with India. The Communist Party asked the people to accept only the merger. The post-independence government under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was anxious to integrate the French Indian territories with the country. India signed an agreement with France in June 1948 which gave power to the people to determine the political status of the land. Accordingly, municipal elections in Puducherry, Karikal and Yanam were held in October 1948. All municipalities except one elected representatives of the French India Socialist Party, a pro-French group. The new councillors at a meeting accepted the autonomy offered by the French government. The Indian government continued to press for unification, pledging a distinct status and help for Puducherry after its merger with India. As the unification movement gathered momentum under Subbiah, the pro-French leader Edouard Gobet switched his loyalty to the pro-merger camp. A momentous event in the freedom movement of Puducherry occurred on March 18, 1954, when the members of the Executive Council and mayors of Puducherry and 7 adjoining communes proclaimed the decision to merge with India. Without a referendum, all the communes in Karikal also followed suit. This decision was to be confirmed by the Representative Assembly. When the Socialist Party was preparing to move the merger resolution, the French governor scuttled it by postponing the session. Provoked by this, the Socialists planned to capture the outlying communes one by one and move to Puducherry. The Communist Party was also ready to launch a campaign of direct action to merge Puducherry with India. Accordingly, the leaders of the Socialist Party hoisted the Indian national flag atop the Netapakam police station on the last day of March in 1954. Subsequently, many villages in Manadipat and Bahur communes came under the sway of the pro-merger forces. In the Karikal region, all the communes and Karaikal municipality passed a resolution in favor of merger. The National Youth Congress began a satyagraha. An independence activists' procession was charged by police using lathi, and the flags carried by the processionists were seized and torn by the French Indian police. India and France, following talks, issued a joint statement on October 13, 1954, announcing a procedure for deciding the status of the French settlements. 5 days later, on the 18th of October 1954, the elected members of the Representative Assembly and the municipal councillors of Puducherry and Karaikal took part in a referendum at Kishore. Of the 178 members voting, an overwhelming majority of 170 members favoured the merger of French Indian territories with the Republic of India. 3 days later, an agreement on the de facto transfer of the French territories to India was signed in New Delhi between the two countries. A treaty of cession was signed by the two countries in May 1956. It was ratified by the French Parliament in May 1962. On August 16, 1962, India and France exchanged the instruments of ratification under which France ceded to India full sovereignty over the territories it held. Puducherry and the other enclaves of Karaikal, Mahe and Yanam came to be administered as the Union Territory of Puducherry from July 1, 1963. Cession of Chandernagore under the Indo-French Agreement of June 1948. The first municipal elections were held in Chandernagore in August. Elections in which the Congress Kama Parishad won 22 of the 24 seats. The new municipal assembly overwhelmingly voted for merger with the Indian Union, but it took until June 9, 1952 before the Government of India took control. Later, Chandernagore became part of the Hooghly district of West Bengal. Cession of Yanam. Conditions became intolerable in Yanam after its mayor and other representatives of Yanam adopted the merger resolution. The mayor, deputy mayor, and over 200 people took refuge in the adjacent areas of the Indian Union. Police and hired vigilantes from Yanam assaulted refugees on Indian soil. The refugees marched into Yanam under the leadership of Dadalo Rafael Ramanaya and took over the administration. After hoisting the Indian national flag, they adopted a resolution declaring Yanam liberated. Cession of Mahe. Close on the heels in Yanam. In Mahe, the Mahajana Sabha under its president I.K. Kumaran began a picketing program. Some days later, hundreds of volunteers marched into Mahe to stage a demonstration in front of the administrator's residence. They were joined by citizens of the enclave. On July 16, 1954, Kumaran took over the administration from the French administrator, marking the end of 224 years of French rule in Mahe. Date of events. List of French governors in India. Says François Héron, 1668 to 1672. François Baron, 1672 to 1681. François Martin, 1681 November 1693. Dutch occupation, September 1693 September 1699. NLT, Treaty of Ryswick. Gouverneurs Généraux. François Martin, September 1699 December 31, 1706. Pierre de Livière, January 1707 July 1708. Guillaume André Debert, 1708 to 1712. Pierre de Livière, 1712 to 1717. Guillaume André Debert, 1717 to 1718. Pierre-André Prévost de la Prévostière, August 1718, the 11th of October 1721. Pierre-Christophe Lenoir, 1721 to 1723. Joseph Beauvollier de Kirchand, 1723 to 1726. Pierre-Christophe Lenoir, 1726–1734, Pierre-Benoit Dumas, 1734–1741, Joseph-François Dupleix, January 14, 1742 – October 15, 1754, Charles Godehew, Le Commissaire, October 15, 1754–1754, Georges Duval de Layret, 1754–1758, Thomas Arthur, Comte de Lally-Tollendal, 1758 – January 16, 1761, First British occupation, January 15, 1761 – June 25, 1765, Unlt. Treaty of Paris. Jean-Lord de Lauriston, 1765–1766. Antoine Boileau, 1766–1767, Jean-Lord de Lauriston, 1767 – January 1777, Guillaume de Belcom, Seigneur de Terrick, January 1777–1782, Charles-Joseph Pétissier, Marquis de Bussy Castle-Nord, 1783–1785. Le Vicomte François de Soulac, 1785. David Charpentier de Cossany, October 1785–1787. Thomas Comte de Conway, October 1787–1789. Camille Charles Leclerc, Chevalier de Fresnay, 1789–1792. Dominique Prosper de Chermont, November 1792–1793. L. Leroux de Touffreville, 1793. Second British occupation, August 23, 1793 – the 18th of June 1802. Unlt. Treaty of Amiens. Charles Matthew Isidore, Comte d'Econ, June 18, 1802 – August 1803. Louis-François Bernot, 1803. Third British occupation, August 1803 – the 26th of September 1816. Unlt. Treaty of Paris. André Julien Comte de Puy, September 26, 1816 – October 1825. Joseph Cordier, Marie-Emmanuel, October 1825 – June 19, 1826. Eugene Panon, Comte de Spasens de Richemont, 1826 – August 2, 1828. Joseph Cordier, Marie-Emmanuel, August 2, 1828 – April 11, 1829. August Jacques-Nicolas Perrault de Melay, April 11, 1829 – May 3, 1835. Hubert Jean-Victor, Marquis de Saint-Simon, May 3, 1835 – April 1840. Paul de Norca du Camper, April 1840 to 1844. Louise Puyol, 1844 to 1849. Hyacinth Marie de Lalande de Cailin, 1849 to 1850. Philippe Achille Badier, 1851 to 1852. Raymond de Saint-Maur, August 1852 – April 1857. Alexandre Durand Herbré, April 1857 – January 1863. Napoleon Joseph Louis Bontemps, January 1863 – June 1871. Antoine Elie Acute Once Machos, June 1871 – November 1871. Pierre Aristide Farron, November 1871 to 1875. Adolphe Joseph Antoine Trilard, 1875 to 1878. Elie Acute Once Laugier, February 1879 – April 1881. Théodore Drouhet, 1881 – October 1884. Etienne Richard, October 1884 to 1886. Edouard Mains, 1886 to 1888. Georges Jules Piquet, 1888 to 1889. Louis Hippolyte Marie Noé, 1889 to 1891. Ariyankuppam and Emile Clement Thomas 1891–1896, Louis John Giraud 1896 February 1898, François Pierre Rodier February 1898 January 11, 1902, Peloton January 11, 1902–1902, Victor Louis Marie Lanrezac 1902–1904, Philemme Lemaire August 1904 April 1905, Joseph Pascal François April 1905 October 1906, Gabriel Louis Angevin October 1906 December 3, 1907, Adrien Jules Jean Bonnara 1908–1909, Ernest Fernand Levesque 1909 July 9, 1910, Alfred Albert Martineau July 9, 1910 July 1911, Pierre-Louis Alfred Duprat July 1911 November 1913, Alfred Albert Martineau November 1913 June 29, 1918, June 29, 1918 February 21, 1919, Louis Marshal Innocent Gerbanus February 21, 1919 February 11, 1926, Pierre-Jean-Henri Didelot 1926–1928, Robert Paul-Marie de Guise 1928–1931, François-Adrien Yvenon 1931–1934, Ariyankuppam and Solomierg August 1934–1936, Horace Valentin Crociccia 1936–1938, Louis Alexis Etienne Bonvin September 26, 1938 Manu 1945, Nicolas Ernest Marie Maurice John Dean 1945–1946, Charles François Marie Baron March 20, 1946 August 20, 1947. Ile-de-France became a territoire d'outre-mer for France in 1946. Commissaires Charles-François Marie Baron August 20, 1947 May 1949. Charles Chambon May 1949 July 31, 1950. André Menard July 31, 1950 October 1954. Georges Cargill October 1954 November 1, 1954. De facto transfer to Indian Union. High Commissioners. Mr. Kewal Singh November 1, 1954–1957. M.K. Kripalani 1957–1958. L.R.S. Singh 1958–1958. Asbam 1960.